And I just want to begin by thanking the farming organisations for coming in today and giving us their detailed presentations. I suppose coming from a county Offaly, which is very much the focus of all of this work at the minute, it does appear that the whole process is being rushed and pushed, and that causes some concern. Certainly, I've been contacted by a number of concerned farmers who feel that the consultation wasn't good. From the onset with Board Namona. So I feel that Board Namona need to be more forthcoming in their communication. It needs to be a lot better. And I suppose, look, this is a very serious, issue really, because any risk of flooding, we have areas in Offaly, particularly West Offaly, which is badly affected by flooding as we speak. We don't want more flooding, unnecessarily if this isn't done properly. So I'm just wondering, in terms of the risk of flooding to farmland, and possible damage also to houses nearby and infrastructure, which will cost us money. And the taxpayer indeed costs more money than we need. Why is the emphasis being put on the bogs in order to sequester carbon when grassland can also do that? And if our forestry crisis was sorted out, we're not meeting climate change targets at the minute, we should be planting 8,000 hectares every year as per programme for government commitment, and that's not happening. So we need to not alone focus on the bogs, but also on those areas of forestry, as I mentioned, if we can get this crisis sorted out quickly, and indeed the grassland. But I suppose, look, I'm very concerned over the issue of turbary rights as well, Offaly being a county which depends heavily, and as you rightly say in your submission, 38% dependency on turf. So I'm just wondering, was any agreement reached on that issue with Board Namona? What progress was made? Because it's very important that our private turf cutters, that they're protected in all this, and indeed that a written agreement is also drawn up in respect of protecting their rights. And I just want to end on the note that I fully support what you're both trying to achieve, what all groups here, 3 groups, are trying to achieve in their submissions. And I have indeed made a submission myself on this issue because I am concerned about flooding, and I am concerned about farmers' rights being, trodden on and people being affected. So I have made a submission. I was glad to see the submission date was extended. But we do need more engagement from Board Namona, and it can't be rushed. And I'll end on that note. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. McCormack.
Yep, thanks very much. I suppose I'll deal with Met Carty's there first, seeing as it came up first. Obviously, there's the issue of Minister Ryan and the fact that he hasn't engaged significantly with local landowners and affected people, the people that Deputy Nolan spoke about there. Equally, I suppose Deputy Carty asked the question about consultation to date. Look, there has been a lot of discussion. We're meeting with Board Namona again tomorrow morning for further discussions. We've had local meetings with affected people and put a list of questions to them, and hopefully we'll get significant progress on those answers tomorrow. But, going back to a point made by Deputy Fitzmaurice earlier, we have nothing in writing at this point in time. And, until the ink dries, nothing has been secured. Whether that is the turf cutting rights for locals, the Deputy Nolan mentioned earlier or later there, as well, that would obviously have to be in writing. It's absolutely critical going forward. But, I suppose we need to get commitments that are of a good code of practice in writing moving forward. Equally, I'd agree there's a huge frustration out there, to Deputy Nolan's comment, on some farm families and farmers that want to put land into forestry and aren't in a position to do so at this point in time. So there are many other ways or a significant number of other ways of meeting our climate obligations and targets, including the management of grassland and indeed the plantations of forestry. So it is a combined effort as we move forward, but there will be more than farmers affected. The rural dwellers can be significantly affected, and I think just Deputy Nolan touched on it there again, with houses, and the potential there for flooding, and we see that time and time again in the news, flood after flood in various towns and cities. But there's real potential for that out there in the rural parts of the affected areas. I don't know now whether my colleague Pat O'Brien wants to come in from a local perspective, and the frustration at the engagement and the lack of commitment, I suppose, within that engagement.
Okay,
Thanks, President.
I'll let in Tim Connan first, and then I'll come back to Pat. Tim is indicating again there, Mr. Connan.
Thank you, Chairman. And there's some excellent points being raised here. And as far as consultation has been concerned, look, we've had a lot of consultation. But I view this as like we can sign off agreements here next week or the week after. But what is more important here is the continuation of engagement here. That's what I'm hearing coming through here. Like, this is a major project. We have farmers and their livelihoods in this area. They have to be protected, and we're not going to do this overnight. This is an ongoing process. And it was mentioned there about the flooding. What Bournemouth are trying to, what they will, or they're proposing to achieve here is that they have to get growth on the bog. Where the peat has been taken out now for years, and what we have at the moment is the carbon is being emitted. It's coming up out of the bog into the atmosphere. What they're doing here is creating a seal and creating growth that the carbon will be sequestered in, and it becomes an excellent carbon sink. And I think, look, we all acknowledge where we are, and I think Deputy Carty, you make a very valid point. A lot of taxpayers' money is being invested here, and we have to ensure when this work is completed that this project stays within the state, and this carbon is used to offset the carbon within our own country. And just to mention on forestry as well, that's something we need to look at as well. So where this carbon will be going, because we are being blamed as farmers. So it's very, very important going forward that we take account of that carbon, and obviously taxpayers' money that's being spent here. Deputy Nolan, I think you make very valid points about the flooding, and and particularly lands and farmlands and all. I was in Offaly earlier on this year or last year now, and we've seen the effects of flooding from the Shannon, and part of that actually would have been because of some of the processes in Bournemouth where there has been silting in the bed of the Shannon as well, and that has created problems in its own right. So, like, this is what I see here is this is an ongoing engagement. Like Bournemouth, as well as we all know, they have ceased or will be ceasing completely the production of peat and briquettes as well, and turf going forward. But like they are, I suppose, look, they're into the renewable energy business as well. And what we want to see here is we want to see this industry develop further, the renewable energy. Let it be, I know wind turbines, maybe not huge engagement there with farmers, but we have to get more in this project. We have to get more direct engagement with farmers to develop projects around increasing farmers' income. Now, this is where we have to go with this. And just a quick mention, Deputy Nolan, you mentioned the forestry. And look, I don't think we're going to waste time on it here this evening, but like that's another issue that is in chaos at the moment. And we want to see the Minister coming out. I know we have made a report that came out last week, but like we're looking at report after report, and we want to see progress there as well. Thank you, Chairman.